Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour, the first for this week. This evening, we are going to be looking at our system of education, asking the question as to what needs to be done to get things moving in the right direction. Students are becoming more and more confused after graduation from our schools. So the veritable question is, why are they not prepared to meet the growing needs of our societies? Why they're not readily employed by existing corporations or themselves creating jobs for themselves and their families and friends? We are looking at this with panelists who are in the house already. We have educationists with us in the house. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is one of them, one of the best I can find in the domain. We got to have you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. You know that I've been very excited and particular about this topic since from 2012, when we had this meeting in Bamenda with Tassan Wilfred and the others in this hotel on the Bafut Road. I've forgotten the name of something, 80-something, I've forgotten, talking about education.
Hotel resort.
Right. Since 2012. And I've been talking about it, I researched about it. From that time, it became very clear to me that we have issues in this country and it's education, and if we don't correct it, we'll be in real trouble.
Okay. We also have Mr. Tazi Aloysius, who is also in the house with us. He's been away for some time. We're glad to have you.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Kum, and good evening, my fellow panelists and the prestigious viewers of my Media Prime. This is a very important topic in my opinion. I think that we really need to redress these issues because I think this is, if you remember, the crisis in the Northern Southwest started from teachers. And I think that the educational system in Cameroon is not delivering the results that they were intended. This is my guess for those who design it, so we'll look at it.
We also in the company of Mr. Ernest Ebui. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Leo. It is a pleasure sharing this platform with this seasoned educationist and my mentor, Dr. Nick, who is doing a lot in the domain of improving the educational quality in the country through his educational institutions. I say this is a very sensitive topic, and we are going to look at things from a perspective that people have never imagined, and it is really going to be an eye-opener for us out there to understand what is going on with our educational system and to see where we can come in to ameliorate.
Okay, we also in the company of ever-present Ndiwum. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Leo, and good evening to all my co-panelists. I want to greet lovers of Prime Hour because each time it's 7 o'clock, they start asking us, where is Kum Leo? So Kum Leo is on this evening. And we are talking something very pertinent.
Yes, I also want to seize this opportunity to say, send a special birthday greetings to a friend and elder of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, Sabina Ikoli, who is out there we are celebrating her birthday. We say Prime Hour is also sending you special birthday greetings. She worships at Oliko. We are starting with you, actually, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. Fundamentally, is there something we can pinpoint that this is where the problem is?
Yeah. It's important that that we set the stage so that we don't get lost. Okay. Even if that was all that we are going to remember tonight, we should stick to it. And then once we have understood that, then we can digress and start defining and trying to understand it. But let me look at you eyeball to eyeball and say it as it is. You cannot solve a problem if you have not understood the problem and if you don't have the tools for solving the problem, that's the bottom line. You cannot solve the problem if you have no wisdom. And we've got to understand what wisdom means. And the question is, why does our kind of education not give us the wisdom we need to be able to solve the problems that we have? That is where the problem is. And from 1960 that we had independence, we have had all these schools, and we think that we are doing very well by the number of schools, the number of children, the number of PhDs, the number of this. We have been wasting our time, wasting our resources, imprisoning the children and thought we were educating them, because technically education is supposed to open up the minds of our children and free them, but we subjected to something that we thought was education, and we are actually locking them up in a prison, in a mental prison, and making them zombies. That's what we are talking about. The education is not good. And the people who gave us the education, France and Britain, when they were giving us the education, they were more concerned about us understanding them and getting to read and write. That's all they were interested in. But at the time they were giving us our education, kind of education, don't forget that they had factories, they were making planes, they were making cars, bicycles, books, and so on. They had the education that allowed them to do that, but they took just the little bit that allows you to read and write and gave you, and you stuck to that one for 60 years doing the wrong things. That is why today we are slaves, and in the course of this discussion, we'll be sharing with you the telltale signs that show that we are slaves, and we must break out from the mold. It's very important. Let me just restate it. Our education has failed, and we ought to change it. We need the kind of education that gives our children, you bring the information to the children get an understanding of what the issues are, the principles are, then you teach them how to use their heads and their hands to solve the problems either individually or in teams. And you now show them again how to use equipment, technology, machines, that's technology, to move forward. That is the kind of education that's in the world today, and we have not got it.
Okay, Mr. Tazi, you studied in Cameroon and out of Cameroon. Where is the problem coming from?
Mr. Leo, I think the problem is from, as Dr. Nis said, from those who conceived and gave us this idea. But I think that I will shift the blame a bit from them, because I think we have gotten up to a level where we've gone past the level of learning how to read and write. As Dr. Nick said, we should be able to realize our own problems and learn how to solve these problems. Because at the end of the day, if you look at our educational system today, it's not there to solve any community problem in Cameroon. That's the way I look at it. We just go to school, we get certificates, we come back, we go back to university, we memorize and transference to come out with the very thing. And well, that is why, in my opinion, we don't manufacture anything. And I think we have to move out of that. We cannot blame the white man who gave us this, because we have the window to move out. It is about those who have been delegated by the government to design the educational policies of Cameroon, to correct that. Just to mention something, education, we have to do with the foundation. You cannot imagine that today in Cameroon, 5, 6 years old children do 15 subjects. I mean, I don't know what they aim to achieve, whether they wanted to produce the best engineers, the best pilot, the best whatever. If that's what was their intention, I think it has failed. I think we need to come back to the drawing board, and then we see how we can correct this, because as Dr. Nick said, we have been imprisoned. We're imprisoning all the young Cameroonians, because you go to school, you read a lot of books, but you cannot apply this knowledge to do anything practically. You cannot produce anything. We don't produce anything. We don't try to initiate anything. We are just there. We memorize what we're given in school, come and we go looking for jobs.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's the case for everybody. Our system does not actually prepare persons to solve problems. Doctor, your students have helped to solve some problems in our community.
No, when we are talking, we should be very careful in the sense that, listen, We are talking about if you take 100 students from Cameroon,
representation,
or at any level, and compare them with 100 students in Germany, 100 students in South Korea, 100 students in Finland, 100 students in Japan, 100 students in Israel. What is the difference? In what way do us measure to theirs? That is the measure. Just because, you know, like when we are talking on WhatsApp in front of Ndiwum, you will bear me out. When I'm arguing and saying our education is not good, some people who like to just cause confusion, but you came out of the system, so why are you making noise? No, 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 no. You know, even when, I mean, we are all villagers, and we are farmers. When Mama goes and farms, and when you come and look at the farm, you can say, and we've planted corn, you can say, this farm is doing well, or this farm is not doing well, just because you have, on a large piece of farm, you have only four crops of corn that are doing well. You cannot say the farm is doing well. That's what we are talking about. It's about statistics, it's about numbers.
We want a system
that works.
80-90%
of success, not 10% success.
Yes. Okay.
Even that 10% is not good enough.
Okay, I will use the 10% to make reference to how well the system
That's right, yes. Okay. Compared with people who are making it.
Yes, Ernest, he raised this issue. You studied in Ghana?
No, I studied in Cameroon, and I must admit I've never carried out any studies in a foreign land. So I'm a product of the educational system in Cameroon. But what I want to say is the missing link in our educational system is the experience and the output. Our education is not designed for us to actually experience what we learn with the realities of life. So in essence, we have to look at where it fails. You know, as medical professionals like Dr. Nick here, they will say that once a sickness is diagnosed, the treatment is easy. So we will say that we have to bring out a correct diagnosis of what is actually failing in our educational system. And I will say that one of the greatest things that is making our educational system to fail is because of this disconnection between our experience in life, our cultural values, and our background. One of the things is that the family, which is the basic functional unit of society, has been put in disarray because of this search, because of this rush after riches. Whereas it is in the family where education starts. Today you will see families are totally disconnected. There are a lot of single parent families out there, especially single mothers families there. They cannot give a child that kind of foundation, which is the required raw material for the child to embrace life situations. Everything about education is based on a raw material. You know, the production starts from a place. And the place of education starts in the life of a child after, let's say, 6 years. Will you initiate the child into reading and writing? Where our problem lies today and where we turn to identify is the reading and writing part. But let us look at the raw material with which that educational system is built for that child to be able to achieve in life. It is that which is obtained from the family. I can recall sometime I read something like a letter from a teacher to a parent, telling the parent how they are supposed to participate in the upbringing of that child. There he states that at home, you're supposed to teach your child respect, you're supposed to teach your child self-worth, you're supposed to teach your child initiative, you're supposed to teach your child. When your child comes back to school, we will teach your child arithmetic, we'll teach your child physics, we'll teach your child all the kind of subject that they teach in school. So fundamentally in our society, we have lost track of the family place in education. Today, it's easy for you to hear a parent say, I have given all to this child. What is that parent trying to say? He says, I've looked for you private teachers to do the same things that are training you. But have you sat down with the child to build that child's confidence in what the child can do? Have you sat down with your child to try to build self-worth in your child? It is because there is that missing link that even if our curriculum today was to be modified to train engineers, but that bedrock of self-consciousness, that bedrock of self-worth, of self-appreciation, self-love would be absent, and it is not still going to produce the desired result we want.
Okay. Ndiwum, Emmanuel, you are an actor in the domain. You train children in Cameroon, and certainly would want to be quoted as one of those who are doing their best, and also would want to see those you train to succeed in the future. Where do you see the missing links that he's raising? He says there is a missing link. there is a reality that we are living. There is the subjects that are taught in classes, but actually putting into practice what is taught and what society needs, there is that missing link. What is the link?
Yes, before I come to the missing link, you need to know very briefly that we are dealing with an educational system that we inherited from different people. And we have been pushed deeper into the mud, being sustained by our present leaders who have decided never to disconnect from those who imposed, because it was imposed on us. But then, if I were to talk squarely in my domain, I would tell you that the first thing we need to look at is the curriculum itself. And when you go to that curriculum, what you should be talking about should be the content. That's the first thing we should be looking. The content of the curriculum of every nation defines the products of the educational system of that nation. Mm-hmm. And so to say, when you look at the educational system of Cameroon per se, and Africa in general, because only few African countries have succeeded to have a retouch on the educational content, you discover that the Cameroon educational system has been tailored in such a way that they train certified graduates, not qualified graduates. Why? Because the content is virtually empty. The content was not designed in a way that suits the reality of our environment. It is not tailored in a way that a child taught in class can be able to identify a problem in his or her environment and bring up an immediate solution. Why do I say so? I say so because subjects that have developed other countries are practically the subjects that have been neglected in the curriculum of Cameroon. And I will give you a few examples. If you look at a subject like agriculture, it is taught as a minor subject in our schools.
Yes, we are going to
with a very low coefficient. If you look at a subject like arts, because Africans are very good in arts. I'm not talking about arts like history, geography. I'm talking works of arts. It has been neglected. It is coefficient 1. But you see something like literature, they'll push it to coefficient 3, coefficient 2, coefficient 5. People spend all their time reciting. And at the end of the day, if you take back that very literature and you give them a real life situational problem to solve, they wouldn't solve it. Because when I talk about content, content goes with objective. If an educational system does not have an objective, then it is zero educational system.
Yeah, but when you say no objective, you are teaching today because you went through the same system now. How do you say the content is completely...
Mr. Leo, yeah. I cannot pride myself to be the best. I would have been best than what I am today if I went through a system that were already well defined. Some of us, like Dr. Nick said, are just struggling today because of the global world to readjust, maybe because we are faced with some personal problems and we need personal solutions. We are trying to readapt and to adjust. Not that the system that taught us actually equipped us with solution-oriented education. So we have lost track because our educational system is not skill-based oriented. It is certificate oriented. Okay. And that explains the fact why you discover that we are not criticizing PhDs or doctors or whatsoever. You discover that the poorest people in our society today, they are the PhD holders, the doctors, the master degree holders. Masters and doctors and PhDs that are of no professional value. That is what we are saying.
No, but at least they are training students in amphitheaters.
Yeah, you see them cry in Yaoundé, begging for a job.
They may not be meeting the desired expectations, but we cannot also say they are completely empty. But
no, they are not. That's not what I'm saying. Don't misquote me. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that a bulk of them.
Okay. Yeah, but no. You're talking
I know
about.
you have a question for me, but let me just finish what he's saying. Ndiwum is saying something, but probably he's not putting it in the right perspective. We cannot have a country where everybody must be a teacher. This is how it works. I've always been thinking about this. Let's do an experiment. Let's go to our universities and take those that have graduated with PhDs from the universities and they are professors. Let's start with their professors and say, professor, okay, let's say that today you are not a professor in this thing that you are doing. What will you do to survive? Write us an essay on how what you will do to survive.
But that's the question I was going to ask.
Yes.
Because yes, the question I have for you is that is it also because our system of education is so certificate oriented? Almost everybody wants to
Yes.
a PhD.
Yes.
After the PhD, everybody wants to be seen as a professor.
Yes.
And not necessarily what the PhD can do.
That is the problem. That is the problem, and that is what we must do, because when minds are still very young, they look at that professor and think that is it. And the professors come to and breathe a lot of hot air and so on. So everybody thinks that is the way to go. But in reality, we are missing the point. Now, before I even get lost, let me come back and define and define some two words so that we get a clear understanding of what we are saying. I want to define the word wisdom and the word success. It's very important. Now, if I were to ask you, what is wisdom? What would you say? In fact, I didn't even know the definition to wisdom. Ask someone, what is wisdom? And then he will start telling you about King Solomon. He was the wisest person. But what does it mean? To be wise, what does it mean? And I must say that, I have to give thanks to Dr. Chris Okilome, the pastor. He is the one who explained. He took time off to explain something. I was listening to him on television, and he was using this Chinese, not Chinese, this Greek word episnoxis or something, and then he broke it for me to understand. When you say wisdom, there are three things to it. First, there is the thing called information. You need information. When I just tell you something, if I just say there are a lot of mangoes in Boya, that's information. Or there's a lot of land in Boya, that's information. For sale in Boya, that's information. But you need an understanding of the information. When you go around and understand the principles and many things around that information, you are just 50% of the deal. So there is the third part that is as important as the first two. It's called doing. D-O-I-N-G, doing. And the best part of the doing is what we call DIY, do it yourself. So I tell you, I give you some information about something. You ask me more questions so that you understand what is happening. Then when you have packaged everything, then you get up from your comfort zone and go and do something about it and go and solve a problem. So wisdom is when you get information and you understand it and then you do something about it, you solve the problem, and in solving that problem you create wealth, in solving that problem you make the community better, or so on. You use resources to be able to solve problems, and when you have wisdom, you use resources effectively and efficiently. Is it making some sense here? So that is wisdom. The other thing that I would like us to understand is the definition of the word success. What is success? We talk about success, but what is it? In principle, when you go to school and acquire these certificates, you call it, I have seen some people who say, I have 3 masters, 3 PhDs, but let me tell you something about certificates. You can have a basket of certificates from the world, but success is made of 2 parts. One, I think it's called aptitude. Aptitude is certificates. Aptitude is measured with certificates. Then, so you have aptitude plus attitude. Attitude, I'm coming back to what you were saying, Mr. May. Attitude is more important than aptitude. We think that aptitude is the thing. Aptitude is good. So to succeed in life, or you can study from now till thy kingdom come and have all the PhDs, it amounts only to 25% of your success. And if you don't watch my lips, if your attitude, attitude is bad, that thing that we call character, your behavior is bad, you are going nowhere. If I don't know how I can say it. If your attitude is bad, Cameroonians, youth, listen to me. If your attitude is bad, you are going nowhere. It's your attitude is responsible for 75%. Let me finish with these children. I'm talking, I hope the children are listening to me. If your attitude is bad, that attitude is responsible for 75% of your success. So stop going around prouding yourself that you have certificates. No, they are no use. If you like, you be the best engineer. But if you be the best medical doctor with a bad attitude, you are a thief. So please, I just wanted to make this so that before we get to
but my question had to do with certificate-oriented education.
All right, yes. Refresh me on this thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, is that not also one of the problems where somebody thinks that I should go and learn a particular course to be able to solve a problem? I want to be known in my community as a master's degree holder, PhD holder, a professor.
Yes, it's the wrong interpretation of values in our community. People respect you. I mean, it was in those days that you show up and then you say, I'm a PhD, I'm a doctor, and I'm this, and people are bowing to you and so on. I mean, there are so many doctors, everyone, even native doctors now, also doctors. So now there's all confusion. Forget about that. People know you for the problem that you are solving. When you can solve the problem, certificate or no certificate, people will bow down to you. I mean, we all have cars here. When your car breaks down, especially in some bush somewhere, and some young guy shows up and is able to help you to solve the problem, you are like, thank you very much, thank you, thank you, thank you. But get all the PhDs and line them up, nobody's solving that problem. So it's about the ability to solve problems. We are not saying that you should not get the certificate. We are not saying, but get the certificate and be able to solve the problem. But if you ask me between certificate and solving problem, which is more important, it is solving the problem. But when you have the certificate, it is the studies that allows you to understand the problem very well and hone in your skills to be able to solve it. But study for as long as you like, if you cannot solve a problem, is useless.
Again, it's useless. You have something to add to what Dr. just said?
Yeah, I want to come back to the position of the family in our educational system, where the family is completely falling out, and how it impacts our long-term life experience. You see that where we acquire this do-it-yourself, what Dr. Nee just mentioned, is in the family setting. You understand that it is very difficult for some parents to actually give out tasks to their children. A child gets up in the house, the child is prepared for school. Even at the age of 10 by a house help, the child does nothing, the child cannot clean anything in the house. And so you see the child gets up, gets used to the fact that everything is done for me. And then when the child finally gets out there, even if that child is offered a job, that child has become redundant at the job site because that child cannot take up initiative. Let me go back to our educational curriculum, how it was designed. You know, this curriculum was hastily designed in the years that ran up to the independence. I'm talking about the 40s and the 50s, just to create people who were going to fit in some positions of compte rendu, as you can understand. In Cameroon, we understand it very well when we talk of compte rendu. Where you occupy a position of responsibility in Cameroon is for you to give a feedback. So you are trained in such a way that you are capable of giving a feedback. So in any office, right up to the presidency, it means that you give a feedback on what you have carried out. So they train you in such a way that you're able to give a good feedback. So that is the education. We were trained to be able to fill in positions. You can remember for those like Dr. Nis, who are our elders, that right up to the 90s, immediately you had your A levels, you were directly recruited into public service. But things changed after the 90s. Now they have seen that many people had the A levels. What they have to do is that they have to bring in some form of competition. Even at that level, the competition is the concours. Even at that level, it becomes so much entangled with corruption, because those who have gone ahead cannot allow their progeniture, I mean their offspring, to begin to compete when they don't have that capacity. So it is now clouded with a lot of corruption, and so the system repeats itself. So now we have redundant people because they have been trained to fill up administrative posts that no longer exist. So we are loitering and we are complaining about the absence of job. So the technical aspect of our education were neglected to privilege the administrative aspect of our education. That is why when we graduate from school, all of us are searching for jobs. Now let me go back to our society, that we are supposed to be trained in order to handle our society problems. Our education should reflect our aspirations. What do Cameroonians in their cultural diversity needs as services and goods to render. These are the things that we are supposed to look like. But let me tell you that the education that was designed to ridicule the cultural values of our people. And any education system that is built to neglect the cultural values of a people will not be able to meet with the aspiration of these people.
What aspects of our culture has been ridiculed?
What do we wear? That is one thing. How is it produced? That is one thing. What do we eat? How is it produced? Do we eat shawarma? Do we eat hamburgers? Those are the things we have to look into.
You are seen in the society as more civilized if you can eat salad very well.
That is the problem. Now, if you go back to a village, let's take a village like Okurumanjang in Menchum Valley. You go there, people eat cocoyams and red oil, plantain and red oil. You cannot produce cocoyams, you cannot produce plantain. What solution are you providing for these people? So you tend to look at somebody who provides these services as a downgraded person. And already with that kind of mentality that you have instilled in that person, that your services are useless, that person is not going to appreciate what he's doing.
That's agriculture. It raised the issue I wanted.
So now we are providing what is needed with our what is not needed with our education system, and what is needed, we are neglecting it. And you see, it is very common for children to leave the village today, come and loiter in Douala because they don't want to do the farming again. That is neglect.
We are talking about a system of education that sets targets and then trying to produce persons that are going to
solve societal problems.
Yeah, but the question is, Cameroon is largely an agricultural country. If we were to invest more in that domain,
I bet you that 50% of what we consume in Cameroon is imported. Look at the rice that we consume in Cameroon. It's imported.
Yeah, I want us to...
I think it centers about what Dr. Nis said, about being able, our education system, being able to teach people wisdom, which means that you go into the education system and you pick something that can help you to do something. Okay. That can benefit, that can solve a societal problem. My brother has emphasized a lot on the missing link. My opinion is that at the level of the education, the position that he's mentioned about the parents come forth. I would suggest the first thing should be start early, get the good teachers, get the teachers well paid, then the parents will come in number 4. If you want to put on a good education system that works. So what I'm saying is that our education system have failed to teach us to acquire knowledge. Okay, that's what I mean. The knowledge as he described, that third part of being able to do something is what our educational system has failed to do. And we cannot push it, we cannot put that solely on the parents alone. Our educational system should be able to teach us. In other words, it should be more vocational oriented, which means that we should blend a lot of books that we learn in class with practical things that we can transform that knowledge into solving practical life problems. And we know that's where success, when you look for a societal problem, you are trying to solve it, you obviously create wealth. Even if that was not intention, you create wealth without knowing. So my opinion is that the question on educational system is, we have to start, we have to implement an educational system or design an educational system that is allowing people to learn to use that knowledge to solve problems. Coming back to agriculture, as I'm telling you, as you just mentioned, Mr. Liu, I think it is something that has been highly neglected. And no, this is not all about Cameroon, it's about the world. The world needs food, and we are a very naturally blessed country, Cameroon. So we have neglected agriculture, and we look at those doing agriculture like local people, if you call farmer in Cameroon, people think that farmers are poor, primitive people looking in the village. In the United States and other developed countries, farmers are about the richest people. And our education system has failed to teach us how to translate from this local, the type of conduct Dr. Ni mentioned in the village, to producing, doing agriculture that can produce food in a large scale, that can feed the community. And in the course of doing that, as you say, you are trying to solve the food problem and you'll be making a lot of money. So this is where I feel there's a link, missing link between our education system. Being able to use the knowledge we have acquired to actually solve societal problems.
Okay, agriculture actually, Guinea needs food, Chad needs food, Central African Republic needs food. This is a core problem. Nigeria. This is a problem that is at our I don't know. Why don't we prioritize a system of education that actually prepares children to take full advantage of this untapped or unexploited field in national life so as to bring in as much money as possible, because all these countries actually need food. It comes before you.
Yeah, you can just, yeah.
Mr. Leo, you see, the question you are asking is very, and how I wish those who have the power to implement are watching the program. But before then, Mr. Mayor insisted so much on the role of the parent. I wish to help him understand that curriculum designers are not parents. The curriculum designers have assisted in the failure of our educational system because most at times it is given to politicians who know nothing about education. You can remember that in Cameroon some time ago, we had a minister of secondary education who had no link to education. His studies were far off the domain of education. And again, when you talk about agriculture, I think Cameroon's strength, if I were to borrow from our consultant, Apostle Mbah, whom I'm sending greetings this evening, one time he said something on this platform that was very important, that we have missed where we could empower our economy with agriculture, and we all want to wear coat, tie, and sit in an air conditioner office. That is exactly where the problem is. Because like I mentioned to you a while ago, I was at the inspectorate 2 weeks ago. We were struggling to find out why the setting of the education has completely rolled out agri science from the setting for this term. Whereas we thought they said we were to go to competent-based approach. And competent-based approach was having a direct bearing with this subject. They told us that no, on a décidé comme ça. C'est un coup de... They are struggling to see how they will factor it in course of time. But then technology and engineering, which has much to do with the development of the kit at this level, to be able to know that if I have a problem in the house, in electricity, I don't need to go out. If I have a problem in my toilet, in the house, or the tap, I don't need to go looking for a plumber. Because the books that have been designed for these subjects now, as I'm talking to you, they are like this. They are well designed, but they are not used. And the problem now comes into those who are supposed to implement. Because when they tell us that the children will not take on any exam now because it is not important, that we should wait. We only have to wait while the decision comes from them. Whereas, if we were to take example from what Dr. Ni was saying, when you are an agriculturalist, from the time you are going to the farm, if it was taken serious in our country, and there was a way that the government could make it in such a way that subventions are given to the farmers, and the schools are empowered like we were growing in those days. There were school gardens, but bed you mean that
yeah,
today...
but is that the problem? The problem is, yes, subventions are given to farmers, but where are we're talking about second generation of farming here?
Yes.
Yeah, but the problem is where are the real farmers? Because
right.
the real
this thing I would like to emphasize, Elio. It is this aspect of do it yourself that is absent in our educational system. It is emphasized, and to do it yourself, you need to be trained from the basis. It is not one morning time a child will get up and understand how to dry clean the house or to be proactive in situations. This starts from the family. This starts by giving the child small tasks as the child is small, and the child grows up knowing that he has a responsibility to fit in society. By saying that it is taken away from us that power to impact a change in society, I will say we are a bit wrong there. What we have to do, if we are able to understand that our education has not actually prepared us, Why I'm insisting on this is because some people have had the privilege to grow up in family backgrounds that has prepared them to be able to take responsibilities in life. And this is why they see that what they have achieved from their family backgrounds is what is helping them to understand the missing link. And now they can set the pace by rewriting, meeting the societal needs with what they have acquired in school. Our curriculum is not that very empty to be able to produce the kind of people we have, but what we lack in that curriculum is that power, the will, and the ability to jump up and they take opportunities and start acting.
Yeah, Ndiwum have to learn. Yeah.
Yes, I was still talking about the case of agriculture. Like he said, it starts from home. I will tell you that if you come to a country like Cameroon, if we were to talk about agriculture in our system of education, it means that right up to he who is the minister of agriculture has to be an agriculturalist, but that's not the case. No, you see them in their
it is not right up to him who is an agriculturalist.
No, I say right up, meaning
it is that when from the base. You are trained in school and you are told that to work garden, you read it from books. But when you go back home, you don't have that experience in working in a garden.
I grew up as a gardener, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
there are a lot of things I can tell you about a garden.
Yes, but now, what is discouraging you from owning a garden?
No, I didn't tell you that I don't own a garden.
Please,
I was saying that
it should
right up to those who are supposed to implement. If we are talking about the domain of agriculture, let somebody who is a minister of agriculture be an agriculturalist himself. You don't see him go down to the field in a tie.
No, you don't see about holding together those who are in the domain of agriculture. It is about administration.
Please. I don't want us to get into politics. Please.
Yes.
We are talking about a system of education. Now, we are looking at a system of education that will train people to provide solutions to Cameroon.
Yes.
But in addition to providing the hunger solution, but then can fetch Cameroon billions of francs CFA because all the nations around us are hungry. Now, why don't we fashion our education to prepare the guys from the schools?
That's right.
To say something.
Just wait. Let me just answer that question. Let me answer that question before we get lost, because the question Mr. Kum is asking now is more of it's a technology and entrepreneurial kind of. It needs a technology and entrepreneurial kind of an answer. For starters, when Mr. Kum was introducing this topic, he was naming the other countries: Equatorial Guinea, Chad, Nigeria, and so on. That's great, but he failed to mention Cameroon, as if we were self-sufficient. It's not true. Now, this is it. I think I like Apostle Mbah because his head is a computer. He was telling us how much we spend in importing onions, and I think we have been importing a lot of corn, and then other beer.
Rice.
Yes, we import rice. We spend more than between 300 and
fish. More than 90% of fish.
Yes, we spend about 300 billion or more importing rice and fish. So, and what's another indicator that you should look at? If you want to see how well your country is, go into a supermarket. Go into as many of these supermarkets that we have here and look at what is on the shelves.
Yes.
I went on when the first time we came to Bamenda, we went to one of the supermarkets. I won't mention the name. And my wife and I were very surprised because we saw this lady, like when you come from off country, you are a native, right? So we saw this woman pushing, feeling so good. And then she went on the shelf and picked some onions like that from Belgium and there was some cabbage from Belgium. And we were looking at her like that and looking at the price and wondering whether something was wrong with her, because on the market there were so many onions for next to nothing. And she was going there. You see, I could already tell that was inferiority complex. Now, I asked the woman in the supermarket, and she opened my eyes. I said, I don't see Cameroonian products. Everything seems to be imported. Then she told me something that made me so ashamed of myself and my country. She said, according to the law, the minimum of 10% of the things on the shelf should be made in Cameroon. But to stock the shelves, they find it very difficult to get even 5%. Is it making some sense there? That means 95% of the stuff that are sold in all supermarkets that we're so excited about are imported. What a shame. The question is, what are you and I going to do so that 60% of those things are imported? I mean, are made locally. So Cameroon is not doing well. That rice, look at it this way. Let's just take by the rice and fish. We spend 300 billion importing that every year. What are we going to do to help our youths, to groom our youths, to be able to produce the rice and fish that we eat? And that 300, instead of going to the Chinese, will go to our children. That is the thing that we need to solve.
The fundamental problem also here, Dr. Nick, isn't it also because we have failed to tell these young people that the billions that you are looking after, in different domains, it's really available in agriculture.
Yes, because
that is where we
just when Mr. May, let me finish. That is. We are not talking, when I'm talking, please just listen to me very carefully, because this is the nut that we are supposed to crack.
Yes.
You see, the agriculture as it has been portrayed has been, when you say agriculture, you see an old man bending over with a broken back and that hoe and a hoe and a cutlass. No, we have a wrong impression of agriculture. That is not the agriculture. When I say agriculture, have a mental picture, and that's the picture I had from secondary school. In fact, when I'm talking to you now, I've said it several times. When I finished class 7, I wanted to be one of 3 things. I wanted to be a pilot, so I could be flying across nations, or be an agric officer. An agric officer to me is a different definition from an agric officer in Cameroon. An agric officer for me is plants and animals and having hectares of all of them. You see that with machines running all over and so on. That is the agriculture. So the question, when we are talking about agriculture here, dear youths, don't be thinking of the agriculture as your mothers and fathers are doing it now. That is not agriculture. It's primitive agriculture. We are talking of modern agriculture where you have got to use technology to produce without breaking your back. When I'm talking of agriculture, I'm foreseeing... I will know that we have succeeded when we have some 2, 3, 4, or many hundreds of very beautiful girls. I said beautiful girls with long nails, painted, sitting in these tractors and driving them and running all over the whole place with their hair flowing all over the whole place. As beautiful as they are, just touching the buttons and the machines are doing the work. Are you seeing? That is where we need to go. And then the other day, the University of Boya came to do an inspection at our agricultural school to see how they could upgrade our efforts. And the dean of the Faculty of Agriculture said something very important. He encouraged us that we should think out of the box and see what are the kind of things that we can be doing for Cameroon to move forward. And then secondly, he said that is the Vice Chancellor in charge of teaching and innovation and computers. He said we should think of post-harvest losses. That is the whole chain. Food transformation, all these kind of things. That food chain, where you add value to things. We have to think of everything and replace those things that we are importing. All those biscuits that we import, all the wines that we import. There was a video was made by one of very intelligent guys. He was telling us why we don't grow wheat in Cameroon, why we don't grow barley and all those things in Cameroon, because someone somewhere put in the books that we should not be growing those things. And he said that the only thing that we can grow should be coffee and cocoa. And even when you are growing that cocoa and coffee, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the white man, and it gives you the price. We need to reverse that and start number 1 and prioritize the things that we eat, and then grow the other one second place for them.
Mr. Liu, good evening, and to the crew on board. I'm enjoying the program. Mr. Liu, there is a big failure because of who we know, and that has caused us no effectiveness in services. Last week, a lecturer in a state university demanded 10,000 francs from students not to write his courses, and those that did not, he gave them threat and that they will fail. That's too bad. Shepherd Gideon is writing from Bomenda. Okay, the lecturer is a lecturer prefers that you give him 10,000 and then you Hello, Mr. Leo. Greetings to all of the good brains there on your panel. The education in our country is not only bad, like it is globally said, but Dr. Nick is right that we have been educated to be better slaves compared to the time back in the slavery. If the education were that bad, then our diploma wouldn't be recognized in foreign countries, even better than those of other countries. Max Begini is writing from Dusseldorf in Germany. Good evening to you. The person writing from Dusseldorf, good evening to you. Okay. Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening to the personalities in the studio. The fate or future of the citizens of Cameroonians is that of the colonialists. Why do I say so? This is because France has used neo-colonialism to politically hijack the educational system of Cameroon. She is seriously involved in the political activities or affairs of Cameroon. Remember, the political will of a country is a guarantee to either rising the country or retarding its economy. Okay, let me add to Dr. Nick. Wisdom is defined as the principal gift of the wise, the spirit of excellence in all walks of life. This definition is taken from the weapon to successful thinking, yet to be published by philosopher Mbah, writing from Yaoundé. Their message is so long, so I can't read it. We're going to
answer, just give me a minute. Let me. Okay. The guy writing from Germany, from Dusseldorf. I want to make a little correction to the guy who has written from Dusseldorf, because he's saying something that can derail people. Yeah. You are saying that our education is so good that it is recognized. It's false. It's actually absolutely false. Like, you remember the example I was giving about corn in the farm? Just because one or two people excel does not mean that that's how the education is. And then the question is, when you are going to school, were you going to school to solve Cameroonian problems, or to solve problems in Dusseldorf? We are talking of the education for solving our problems, not for solving the problems in the white man's country.
Okay, we're taking a short break. When we come back, we are going to be continuing with the topic, which is very, very important. But then, before we take the break, I want just to invite all of us to take up time to look for this book by Reverend Father Bertus Asanji.
Yes.
A great book. The title is Speak to Inspire.
Yes.
If you really want to speak and make a difference in the world, we're talking about wisdom. I advise that you get a copy of this book by Reverend Father Bertus Asanji, who is Menda. As we speak, let's go for the break.
There's nothing more magical than spending good times with the family during the holidays. So, join Canal Plus and let's spend the holidays together. To welcome you, the decoder is 5,000 francs and installation offered with many channels.
Ça sera la musique ou rien.
C'est tout.
What to love?
Nous avons un duel Afrique de l'Ouest, Afrique centrale.
Dance and ignite your evenings. Share strong moments full of twists and turns. And even make the younger ones dream.
Passage en vitesse, Mac Noel. Tout est prêt pour qu'on profite de
Nothing kill my vibe. I see you watching my stories. I see you getting my lifestyle. I see you watching my movements. This bad bitch bad every day. I know the look on your face. Bad man bad every day. Get on your knees and pray. Do you regain your faith?
back. You're watching Prima on My Media Prime. We are looking at what is not working in our system of education and how to fix them for the good of our nation and communities. Yes, do we also have a problem with the training system of those who are supposed to man positions in this system?
Problem stems from, because in my opinion, if those manning those positions were qualified, they would have realized that the system there is not producing the desired result. And so they would have done something to correct it. As we are talking now, the trend is things are instead getting worse. Because Cameroonians, in fact, in my opinion, the Made in Cameroon brand is being killed systematically. What is produced in Cameroon is being killed because Cameroonians cannot produce their own things, and even when they produce, you know, we Cameroonians, Dr. Lee mentioned something about supermarket Bamda. We would not want to consume what comes from Cameroon. I want to consume what comes from France because maybe it makes me look superior, even if it is more expensive. So this mentality is what we have to change. Dr. Lee mentioned something too very important. The value chain. If you go to the market and you see the amount of food in the evenings that is wasted, in the course of training young Cameroonians in agriculture, they have to be able to complete that process. Pick up vegetables that at the end of the day were not sold, fruits that at the end of the day were not sold, for transformation, so that these things will not be wasted. This should be enshrined into our educational process.
Yeah, but this is what you know. How many students who are going to bilingual grammar school in Likoboya, GBHS, remember lycée Etugebe, maybe lycée bilingue, polyvalent out there? Do these children actually know what you are saying? Because that is where the problem is.
That's why we're here to say that we are here to throw to raise their attention, so that they should know that this is what we call a blue ocean. A blue ocean is where there are a lot of business opportunities, a lot of opportunities. That's why we're here to say that you should look at these opportunities, go into agriculture. Recently, there are agricultural schools being opened in Cameroon. So we encourage you to go in there. Then the trainers in there, the curriculum in there, should be able to train these young Cameroonians to solve Cameroonian problems. This is what we are saying. Then we should be able to consume Cameroon-made goods. Dr. Nijo gave us statistics of what we import: rice. I mean, we cannot be importing, and that's money that is going to foreign nations. We should be able to train Cameroonians. And this mentality of agriculture, we have to start accepting what is agriculture, because within agriculture is for poor people in the farm. If you say you want to do livestock, if you know the amount of money, how much money you can make from livestock in Cameroon, you wouldn't believe it. And he said our market is not saturated. Nigeria is next door an ocean. Everything you produce and sell in Nigeria goes in. So the market is readily available. Our problem is that our educational system first does not encourage Cameroonians to produce, young Cameroonians to produce. Even when what is produced locally, they don't encourage Cameroonians to consume what is produced in Cameroon. We feel that by consuming what comes out from the West, it makes you more superior, or it's for the higher class of people, which is we have to keep this mentality away. And we make sure that we produce, we consume what we produce in Cameroon.
The Cameroonians need to be taught, to be taught away from the mentality, the perception they have of agriculture. Because of a farmer, like you just said, that when you talk to any young person about agriculture, the first thing, the students, the first thing they want to see themselves is in an office, in something, because they see agriculture as something for the elderly.
I want to emphasize that we have been trained through our educational system to denigrate ourselves.
Okay.
That is why when a Cameroonian produces something, he will end up not finding where to sell it. And tomorrow, that Cameroonian will not be encouraged to produce again, because we hate ourselves. And love is the foundation of every society to succeed. And love starts from the family. A child that has not understood love from the family will not be able to bring love into the society. And it is that raw material that is needed for any successful education. This is the problem we have in Cameroon. Even if we have to encourage Cameroonians, because we are talking about food and agriculture. With a small course I did in psychology, we looked at what we call the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Cameroonians, we have not yet satisfied that level of hunger, that we can look at the level of security. We are still very hungry, and that is why we are basing our debate on agriculture and seeing how we can exploit it. There is this young Cameroonian that I admire so much with his courage and effort. He's called Ronan Fomundan. He's the founder of Greenhouse Ventures. He has been doing a lot in order to encourage Cameroonians to engage in that domain. So I've just quoted him. He's doing a lot, and Cameroonians could look up to him to see how they could actually get into this modernized agricultural type that he's promoting. Then now, we don't love ourselves. It has to be taught from the family that appreciate your brother who is producing something, to buy from him, to encourage him tomorrow that when you need that thing, he's there to supply you. When we produce in our farms, our brothers don't buy. Tomorrow, we are not encouraged to produce. I know of people who have tried, even rolling chicken, and coming out, they tell them that, no, we are not going to buy. I know of Cameroonians who have tried going into the farm or say, no, there is no market in that thing. And what is love is that, okay, I should try to do like any other person who has been trained in school to look for a white-collar job and sit down. So it is all about what we have to promote. You look at today, when we tell people that go into fashion design and produce us dresses. But when we go back and buy what comes from China, we go back to buy second-handed dresses. That is what breaks my heart. That I have to wear second-handed dresses right down to my pants from what whites have used and sent back to me. It breaks my heart to see that. And I understand that there are brothers and sisters who can produce the very things. You look at the dress I put on, it is produced by a Cameroonian. So I just go there, I pay him, I take my dress and put on. I have vowed in my life not to wear these second-handed dresses again that come from Europe, because I want to promote mine. Those who are involved, go to a place that they call Ancient Tourism. They are there, they produce you quality dresses. So what it breaks my heart again is that I've gone up the length and breadth of this country from Marwa right down to Edi now. Cameroon is self-sufficient. Even without external input, Cameroon can sustain itself. The cotton that comes down from the north is enough to produce dresses for Cameroonians and beyond. So why should we be wearing second-hand dresses? Why can we not encourage our own? The leather that is exported from Cameroon can produce us the highest quality shoes that we need.
Your wish is that these things should be produced in Cameroon, the dresses and the food. Do we have those that are ready to produce them? Have we trained them? Yes.
It's technology. When we already understand, if somebody knows that if I produce something, look at these Malians, these Nigerians who move up and down selling Samara, selling these things. How many people patronize them? These African brothers that we could encourage our brothers that when you see this man here, you should establish a workshop. We should encourage him. Let him produce, let us buy. How many of us encourage these people, these Senegalese or Malian Nigerians who move up and down? That is artisanal. How many of us encourage them? We don't encourage them. We don't buy. Okay. We want to buy what comes from China. We want to buy what comes from Europe. And that is the problem why we are not emerging.
Okay, that's the problem. Now, Ndiwum, we're looking at the system of education. I asked him about the issue of trainers. Are you also very comfortable with where you were trained as well as other teachers? The process of selection and the host of others?
No, it would be very dishonest to say that I'm very comfortable. No, I'm not comfortable. You see, life is about growing from one level to another steadily. But when that kind of training is not given to you, you cannot sufficiently grow the way you would have loved to. That question you are sending, it has pushed me to, because we have talked so much about agriculture on this platform, and I wanted to remain in the context of the educational system. When you talk to somebody in US, the person tells you that what they ask you in US is what you can do, and not the certificate you are having. So I come back to where I started from. We need an educational system where our hands need to do more work than copy more notes. We are gone past that level. We need an educational system where what matters is taught in school. You see, there is so much talked about entrepreneurship in the world of today, but it will shock you that even back in the University of Boya, it is done as a minor course. I stand to be challenged this evening.
Minor course, how? There should be a department or a
yes,
faculty
yes,
in charge of that.
Yes.
That department will not treat it as
what I would
money.
like to say about entrepreneurship is this. entrepreneurs is just the ability for you to take what you already know to put it into practice. So if it is a minor course, the major course there is what is your ability to do. So that entrepreneurship is there to orient you how to engage in that domain.
Yes. May I remind you that those who are watching us, there are some of them who have these skills, but they don't know, they don't have what it takes to provoke it. So such programs are just to provoke them. Maybe they can get to us. You see, if our curriculum was designed in such a way that somebody knows, maybe I have capital, but I don't know how to use the capital. And in this particular department, I can be guided, I can be counseled to do this and do that, and this will be the outcome. So that when I am benefiting, I am recruiting other people and they are also benefiting, which now lightens the burden of the government. Then coming back to the quality of training, Mr. Leo, you know how in Cameroon it is done. Let's take the domain of NSET and ENS. Those who go in there are those who have the financial bargaining power to a certain degree, which means that it is bought. Let's be honest.
No, I know persons who have gone there without paying.
Yeah, that's why I say to a certain degree. Which means, and I also know an economics teacher who once told us that I was not born to be a teacher. Stop criticizing me, but I enjoy the salary that comes from it. And the teacher admitted it, that no, it was not her domain, even though she was forced to do it because that was the only option left because the family had the money to do that. Which means that the quality training is not there. That's one. Two, even the institutions that were supposed to train the people have also failed. Like somebody wrote something there about courses being bought in the University of Bamenda. I have a testimony just 3 days ago that that's what has been obtaining in some departments there in the University of Bamenda. Students buy courses. Some students are not even in town, but their courses are validated. Different people sit in for them and write to be paid. And so you discover that such a person, when he comes out, what kind of problem can he really identify before talking about a solution? Whereas his exam was written to him by somebody else. It means that it's a whole lot of system that needs to be changed. Right from the training to those who are supposed to take care of the training. It needs change. If not, we will keep producing the same job seekers every day who comes out and goes to the street and start crying that we don't have jobs. Okay. So it is time that the powers that be, because you and I, we can talk from Monday to Friday, but those who have the key to implement, if they don't have the goodwill, nothing will be done. We'll only be singing and singing and nothing will be done.
Something, Mr. Leo, to this issue of training. If we, in such a situation where Cameroon finds itself, we find ourselves, to come out, we have to look at somewhere where somebody is doing something better. They'll say, how are these people doing something better? If you take the case of Finland, in Finland, to become a teacher, you are from the top. The most intelligent people are selected to be teachers. And you see they are way number one because they produce, they train, they do what they are told to do, and they train, and it's some sort of by merit. I'm coming to what he was saying. In this our situation here, at times, people just go to Economy because he has been graduated, he's been out of school for 3 years, I don't have something to do, he has an opportunity. They are not passionate about the job. So even in this type of a situation, you have to know that such people cannot produce the required results. Even if the required curriculum was in place. Where does it take us? This takes us to the point where we have to start knowing that the way people are selected, put into positions, is influencing our educational system and influencing the products that are coming out of our educational system and pushing us to where we are today, where we can produce virtually little of what we consume.
Okay. Before the Chinese came, I think the meat in Cameroon was well patronized. Okay, meat in Cameroon was well patronized. I do think the problem is with the government policy. They accept foreign imports to kill home industries. Ryan is writing from Mape. I don't know where Mape is. Good evening, Mr. Kum. What about handwork that teachers collect money to students in the name of handwork? Elvis is writing from Oku. Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you and others in the studio. I think education is failing today because most teachers are not devoted. Teaching as well as medical is a call, but many people just engage into them today due to frustration. Elizabeth is writing from Bamenda. Hello, Mr. Leo. I'm enjoying the program. Quinta writing from Bafusam. This one says, hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening and greetings to your crew. Mr. The way forward with our agricultural sector is Farmer Business School. Yes, Farmer Business School is an approach with 12 well-structured and elaborated models. This approach is to address two fundamental problems of the rural farmers: unorganized nature of our farmers, mismanagement of resources among farmers. By addressing these two problems through these 12 modules, we conclude by saying that Cameroon's farmers need to move from rudimentary ways of farming with crude tools and embrace farming as business, not merely as a source of food. I'm available to throw more light on that for is writing from Bamenda, agronomist and rural development expert. Good evening to you, I'm sure you can work with Dr. Nick. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and the great men in the studio. Particularly love consuming the made in Cameroon, but due to the limited income, I'm forced to do a comparison between the imported and homemade, and of course, as a consumer, I go for the value and price. Roland is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo. We need to embark on technical education, commercial education, agri science, and professional education. Shea Fred is writing from Yaoundé. Yeah, but Dr. Nick, we're talking about a system of education that is also organized and regulated by a system. How affordable is school in Cameroon? Because seemingly some people are also excluded because people just come up with schools and then come up with the fee structure now. I don't know whether there is an organ that regulates all of that.
Okay, you're asking an important question there, but again, you know, you are looking for value for money, and then you're also looking at the accessibility. Some people are locked out because of the money. Okay, that's a problem. But the thing is, where I'm focused now is someone has the money and is buying the wrong product. That's what I'm concerned about. You know, even Foso's child is going to school and is being taught the wrong thing. So whether it be Foso's child or a pauper's child, what they are getting for their money and their time is the wrong thing. That's the one that bothers me most. Now, that said, you might want to ask the question, then how should the education be structured so that it is productive? I would say that, before I even go there, you were reading something and somebody said something about homework. Homework that the children pay 100 francs for a broom or something, that's handwork, or yes, that is wrong. You are already corrupting the mind of the child. It's absolutely wrong, and it's something that we should banish from our schools. That handwork means do the handwork. If there's no handwork, I don't know, but do something. Just try and do something. But to take 100 francs from a child in place of handwork is actually theft and deceit, and it's actually crippling the child. That was just an aside. But I've been thinking about it. You see, this education that we have. We have this education today that we have the so-called grammar education over here, and technical education over here is already, that's where the failure begins. What we need to do as a nation and a country and in Africa is when children have left class 7, they go into a secondary school, un point, entrée. Don't start sieving them and saying, these are technical, these are grammar. That's where we're making the mistake. And the question is, what will they be taught in that school when they move from secondary and going up? What is that? What do we call that up, and what should they be learning? We put them in a comprehensive college. So we don't more hear about Sacred Heart Grammar School, this one, Bamenda Technical College. No. It would be Sacred Heart Comprehensive College and High School. all schools will be comprehensive. Comprehensive means we have gone in there and taken all those subjects that we study in the grammar school, we bring them over onto the table. Then we go into what we call the technical school, bring all those subjects and bring them onto the table, throw everything in there. Because the child who is doing the building in the technical school, to be able to be a good builder, you need the physics and the mathematics. But when we teach the children the physics and mathematics and it's disjointed, they don't get it. But the children should be taught practical mathematics and practical physics and so on, that they take over here and see when they are drawing the plan of the house that they are going to build, their minds are working together. It is not split. In fact, I understand these things best because I went to one of the best schools in West Cameroon. It's called CPC Bali in those days. And when I was, in O levels and A levels, we were taught by some of the best teachers that came from Holland. And by the time we finished, I mean, we were one of the best, by the time we finished high school, I and my friends, we felt like engineers because of the way we were taught. We felt like engineers. And in fact, I was giving this other example on television somewhere else. In my first 2 years, I went to JMB Sindhu, and the physics book, the way the physics was taught, I still remember some of the experiments that were taught those days. And the physics book was a thick book like this, yellow in color. It looks like, when you look at it, it looks like this Good News for Modern Man Bible, which is yellow. That's how the physics book was. And I remember an experiment in that book. It's called the collapsing tin experiment. And that experiment was meant to teach us the force exerted by the atmospheric pressure. And what is the collapsing tin experiment? That if you put a little bit of water in a tin, this oil tin, the metal one, you boil it. As the water boils and the vapor comes up, it sends out the air. Then if you close that tin and you pour cold water on it, the tin will collapse. And they were explaining that as you pour water in it, the water vapor that was keeping the tin open, it condenses, and then there's a vacuum in there, and the atmospheric pressure pushes on the tin, and it collapses. That is how you teach children, and they don't forget. And this is the kind of thing we need to be teaching our children. Comprehensive colleges. And so when students are studying this thing, because when you are teaching all those subjects that you are teaching in the grammar school, you are teaching by the principles. And the ones who are teaching in the technical school is application. But bring these two together so the child is learning the principles and applying them and seeing, not that he learns, the two, they are going at once, he learns these things and they stick like I don't know what. And these children will be good. That is how we should teach our children. And therefore, you are going to say that, yes, but some students are better in the arts and some in science. Fair enough, that yes, they are. But we do it in such a way that by the time they are leaving Form 5, those of them, because what we are trying to do is, if we look at the school structure now, 80% of our children study arts and only 20% the sciences. And even the 20% who are studying the sciences are not as good as they ought to be. But we should create a system where 80% of our children will be good in sciences and technology. And that is what we need for our countries to wake up. So that those of them who will be studying the arts, even though you are studying art, but agriculture, you can change a bulb in your house, a couple of things. You see what I mean? You don't just be green. That is the kind of thing we are talking about. My wife was telling me yesterday about a new priest who is in this new cathedral in Boya. And that priest is a young man. I was so impressed by what she was telling me. This priest came there. If you have been to the new cathedral that is being built in Boya, the church has a lot of land. And this priest came there, and what philosophy does he have? He says, yes, the congregation is supposed to look after the priest and everything, and we keep begging and so on. I mean, asking for, that's how we look after the church. But he said, but those of us in the church, we should also be doing something so that these people come and add. We cannot keep on just squeezing them for everything. And what did he do? He planted more than 1,000 suckers of plantains. And he has some girls there who are IDPs. He's looking after them. And he's kept this pantalon chicken, and he's rearing them, he's hatching them and selling and so on. That is the way it should be. Not that you just sit there, I'm a priest, holy, holy, holy. No. You are a priest, yes, but be doing something. You are a reverend sister, yes, be doing something. You are a teacher, but it doesn't mean that when you finish teaching at 3 o'clock, you just go drinking. That is the way we have to do it. We have to give everybody practical skills. And like I was saying, agriculture has to be taught from nursery school to university. It should take about 5% of the curriculum time. Those that will not actually go into agriculture full time, of course, they have it. But everybody must do agriculture. And though it's only 5%, if you fail the agriculture, you repeat. Whether you are the child of a minister, you fail agriculture, you repeat. And everybody must be able to do it. Scientific agriculture, we have to do things differently. And now, to whatever we are doing, we have to add the soft skills. Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not, you cannot just go to a school and then the faculty of entrepreneurship. No. Entrepreneurship is you are taught how to think out of the box. What is entrepreneurship? Okay. Entrepreneurship is defining, is developing a mind to be able to see problems in the community and solve them.
Okay. Hello to the panelists. Dr. Nick has spoken volumes in few lines. Aptitude and attitude are responsible for success. Wisdom involves information, know-how and demonstration, followed by concrete implementation. Doctor, it's an honor to have you in this country. My regards to all of the panelists. Okay. Sumbele Kelvin from Kongsamba says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and your wonderful, inspired panelists. I'm really enjoying your program. Education system in Cameroon and Africa is not help the society. Okay, even the competence-based approach, the newly introduced, is still not something to bring the change we need. Dr. Nick is really hitting the points. Okay. Success, writing from Kribi, says, good evening. Teachers in the towns are forced to collect 100 francs for handwork because there are no materials in the towns to come out with this handwork.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Greetings. Nemo that are called abeta, meaning you cannot give what you don't have. Output is determined by input. No nation can rise above the level of its teaching. If you want to know a nation that would emerge, check its curriculum and what is taught in class. Ajo's Green Revolution was a fine start. Then Cameroonians and the nation were on good footing. Cameroon can only emerge if her agricultural sector is given a pride of place. Dr. Nick and Ndiwum are pillars of fountains of knowledge. Okay, so Remy writing there. Good evening to you, Remy. Good evening to you all. We need to change our educational system towards agriculture because it's our backbone. Pilo is writing from Kumba. Good evening to everyone, but please, I would love you people should talk a little of informal education. It's Ngome Nelson writing from Sang Melima. Ngome, good evening to you. Thank you. Okay, good evening to you there in the studio. I am very happy with your discussion today, especially when you are talking about how agriculture is not only for grandmothers in the village. Please, can you throw more light on that? Because the youth nowadays don't think like that again. Yeah, maybe we organize a program on agriculture on Wednesday.
Yeah, just talk agriculture.
Yeah, I think so. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I just want to extend my warm greetings to everyone in the studio. You guys are doing a wonderful job for being our eyes and mouthpiece. Prince Bilef Finde, writing from Berlin in Germany. Me, just like the last speaker said, Africa is far behind the 21st century development because students are not trained to be skillful. That is why we have the attitude of what do you have instead of what can you do. Good evening to you, Prince Bile, writing there from Germany. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and all the panelists. Your prime topics always inspire many Cameroonians. The failure in our educational system is not only in the domain of agriculture. The failure is the holistic upbringing of the youth. We are brainstorming to do white-collar jobs after school and own matricules and not to be self-sufficient or financially independent. The problem is lack of equity in developing talent. Alex Oyak, writing from Douala, Good evening to you guys in the studio, especially Dr. Nick. We import things until we import toothpick from China. Too bad for Africa. Winka Edwin, writing from Banjul in the West region. Good evening to you all in the studio, and especially to Dr. Nick. I will be very pleased with our government. Stop calling, please. Our government, if all these beautiful ideas of yours to look into our educational curriculum to be more of practicals. By so doing, we can solve the importation of food stuff in our country. Need Cosmetics, the best in Bamenda. Good evening to you, Need Cosmetics. Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Foncham Desmond from Bamenda. Just wanted to give a special shout out to Dr. Nick. I've always been a big admirer of the way he talks about the things we need to do to make our country better. I've been a fan of his since the presidential campaigns. Okay, now we're talking about how to fix the system. What should be done at the level of the training of the personnel?
You mean the trainers?
Yes.
Train the trainers program? Or because
everything.
I will start from something Dr. Nick mentioned about the separation. You know, as we grew up, we knew that the dull students were those who were going to technical school. At the end of the day, the technical school was where the science was supposed to be put into practice. And so that fit in squarely to his suggestion that we should bring it together. Now, I will come back to the foundation. To fix these things, we have to start from nursery school. And we have to copy from those who are making it. In Finland, before 6 years, children don't learn, they learn by playing toys. And the teachers are observing them, and they are almost picking their careers and orientating them. Before 1 to 6 years, they don't. But in Cameroon, you see, 1 to 6 years, we are doing 15 subjects. So the idea here is we have to correct this thing by looking at the success story. South Korea, Finland, Japan. What have they done that they are so industrious? What have they done that their children are doing science and technology and doing a lot of things? What can we copy from them? And then we start from nursery school. Because you prepare the minds of this, they grow up knowing how to do things. And I think, in my opinion, that's what we do. That's where we start. Now, then for the trainers, we should get the qualified people and train them. The thing here, somebody mentioned something, some of us just go into teaching because we want to earn a salary. And the salaries that are not even motivated. If you look at the models that work in the world, the first level is you start training the children first. The second level is get the qualified teachers. And the third level is pay those teachers well so that they are motivated to work. Then the fourth level, the rule of the parents come. This is the model that is working for those countries that are about the best countries in education in the world.
Okay, I will take a question for somebody who is following the program. This question I'm sure I'll ask to you, Dr. Nick. Yes, I'll ask this question to you, Dr. Nick. This question is coming from Jude Bong Chi. He is a teacher out there working in the Northwest region. He wants you to comment on this issue of we're talking about competence-based approach.
Yes, competence-based.
Yes, it's been applied for more than 5 years now, almost 5 years, but nothing is happening. There's nothing why is it not working? And he is asking whether it was not wrong to have just copied something from a different system and wanting to get it implemented in Cameroon.
That's right. The competence-based approach is a good thought, but you are putting Mimbo in a wrong container. You see, something is missing. We grab this idea that is very good. We don't understand it, and they will try to infuse it here, and then the terrain is not prepared. What is competence-based approach? It's a big word, but it means nothing. It only says, help children develop competency, skills, empointre. That's all it means. And to help children to develop those skills, we need to break down those walls as I was trying to explain. In fact, I'm with my little daughter now, my granddaughter now in the house. Lulu, she's just 4, getting on to 5. But what I see the child do, she still cannot express herself very well. But you have to, we have to understand that it's between 0 and 7 years that the children's brains really grow.
Yes.
And they study a lot. And I was reading another book, I think a psychology book, that we should leave children to actually experiment a lot.
Yes.
Somebody was saying something, it was in connection with the use of cell phones and these Android gadgets, that a lot of children are playing with these cell phones and Android gadgets, but are not able to do simple tasks. And that is true, because when children grow in the natural environment, they learn how to do things. For instance, that little girl of mine, you know, when she couldn't even speak and she wanted to drink Ovaltine, she would come to where it is kept, point to the sugar, point to the Ovaltine, and we bring it down. Before long, she would go and take a knife and a spoon, and she would be able to open the Ovaltine cup herself. And today, with the little sister, what they do is they would put it there, and they would put the milk, everything themselves, and insist that I give them the water, and they stir it. It's part of chemistry. It's part of the learning. It's a learning process. You see what I'm saying? That is how it's supposed to be. That's the competence-based thing. Let children be doing it and learning. And these competencies, forget about the big names. Whatever we call them, let us put all our children in the comprehensive schools. Give them the laboratories. Give them the right teachers, not Karanil. The right teachers. And for the right teachers, what do I mean? We are going to do something that I've always called cross-pollination, because we don't have it. We don't know technology. And our teachers don't have the technology, and they teach us the way they teach the way, because you can only give what you have. So we are going to go out to countries like India and so on, and get teachers from there, retired teachers, good teachers, young people. They come and then teach our own teachers. And because we have people who have graduated from the University of Boya, Bamenda, and so on, with a first degree in chemistry, first degree in physics, and so on, but they have not been in the lab. So we have to create the labs and take them inside the labs, let them go through the principles that they learned, and do the practicals of things. And then our teachers have to come back from their lot, just like you were saying. This thing of taking people who have failed and then sent to teachers training college, it's over. And we go through the universities and push the lecturers to the wall. If you are a lecturer in a university, PhD or whatever, if you don't know what you are doing, we throw you out. And you either retool yourself, because just giving you 1,000 children to be deceiving is not the thing. You have to retool yourself and be able to do it. It is about a package doing things. Just to say that when you look at the budget this year, for instance, the Ministry of Secondary Education has about 400 billion. What are they doing with it? As far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of money, waste of resources, waste of students' time, and so on, because we have been doing the wrong things. Until we come to the point where we say we are doing the wrong things, let's do it right, that money is useless.
Okay, the money is useless, but I'm sure the money is going to be helping some persons. Yes, because schools are going to be run with their new schools.
No, when I say it's useless, no, wait, Mr. Kum. It's useless in the sense that you are using the resources to do something with no results at the end. That is the bottom line. It's useful just because you are paying teachers. Well, it's useful like this. But the question is, what is the end result?
Students get advanced level every day.
It is not the getting of the, that's exactly what we are saying here. Yeah, okay, if it's for certificates, if the measure is certificates, fine.
At least you've answered the worry of. Yes. But my question now is, we are looking at how to fix the system. What should be done with respect to how studies are organized in Cameroon? Talking about curriculum here.
Yes. So I maintain that the curriculum has to be tailored in a way that the hands work more than just copying the notes. And if I were to propose something at the level of training again, because it's very important, I think that if our government would put mechanisms in place wherein to succeed a concours into a professional school, 80% of it could be practicals. That is, they take people who are very good in that domain, they conduct the exams, the entrance, so that the practical part of the examination takes 80%, while the written part takes only 20%. I think we would have gone a long way. So that, take for example, if you are taking a teacher into ENS Bambili, because it is still surprising that till today, the intake of teachers in the science department in all state écoles normales are the lowest. In Bambili, physics department 4, mathematics 3, in history department 50, in literature department, geography department 60. Then mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, which are the core subjects, they are the less intake.
Where at the level of the training?
Yes.
It's also proportionate to the number of students who are.
No, you cannot say Mr. Liu, you cannot say that because if you go there on the written date, you discover that those who sat in for biology were more than 5,000, but they need only 3. It means that those who are in charge of implementing what we are preaching here tonight, they are failed. They are failed in that domain. So they are supposed to take practicals first, because to just come and sit and write, there are some people whom in writing you will never beat them, but in doing there will be 0. So if we were to actually train people who are competent in doing their job, let's take practicals 80%, written maybe 10%, orals 10%. If it was done this way, though I know it would be difficult in the context of my country, if it was to be done that way, I think the real people will end up in the real places and will end up delivering what Cameroonians are expecting of them.
Okay, we are looking at ways to fix the system. You maintain that the parents are supposed to work hard, but the parents are also supposed to be working hand in glove with
what the state has provided in them. So I would like to emphasize that if we actually have to fix this our educational system, like Mr. Tazi said, we have to start from the nursery school. And school, like I want to make us understand, is something, learning is something that is not just what we acquire from books, like in a formal education. It is a holistic something of the development of the person on how to apply the knowledge is gathered informally from his environment, implement it with what he has gathered in books. That is what training is all about. So when we want to have a holistic education, we need that kind of education that is hands-on training. Hands-on training means that from the home, you're able to make the child understand that when you see this thing here, it is not the right position, put it in this position. When you see this thing, you do it like this, you are able to get up the morning and do this. And from that kind of training from the home, we can take it right down to nursery school and then implement it in our educational system. I believe that is going to help us to try to reverse the trend in which we are in now, because it is actually where the raw material for our education stands. It comes from what the child received early on. There are some scientists who have gone far ahead to demonstrate how our outlook of life occurs some years back. He says, this is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who says that we are programmed from birth. What we receive from the first years of our birth is what we are going to manifest in the latter years of our age. So it is like some form of trying to implement in that child's brain the necessary tools, that is the being of the child, the necessary tools through home training and actions. What I'm trying to say is that the child downloads actions at the early stage, like trying to be active, and then it goes down. And then when the child grows older, it tries to implement it. It's the manifestation of what the child has downloaded at the first stage of development. That is what he has experimented, and that is why I say that is the outlook of life. But when a child grows up and understands that everything is supposed to be done for me, oh, you see that child has dropped a dish there, pick it up for that child. You cannot keep a child to playing with a dish. No, please don't play with a dish. Take it to the kitchen. When you see a dish somewhere, remove it. You see it is a whole set of program that will manifest in the latter age. So it will not come up. Because let me be honest with us. In Cameroon, we have this blame game. Oh, they are not doing what they are supposed to do to us because we have been brought up to always think there is somebody somewhere who is going to address our problems to us, for us. That is what we have been trained to understand.
Okay.
But if we actually understand that, if we see that something is wrong, we are able to act to reverse it. We can, at the individual level, try to take responsibility to reverse the kind of training we have received. before we can see how it is implemented. I would like to respect Dr. Nick after going through the system of education in Cameroon and seeing that it is not meeting up the needs. He has succeeded in putting structures in place that is trying to reverse the trend. That is what most Cameroonians, especially those who have understood the need to transform the education system, need to do. And it starts from the parent at home. So that you should give us a child to impart skills who is already ready to receive the skills. Not that we have to train the child to be respectful, we have to train the child to be ambitious, we have to train the child to be active, and then still train the child on the skills. You know, the job is not going to be accomplished all by the schools.
Okay, somebody just, hello, good evening, good job you guys are doing. Below are the questions that explain why Africans are failing in the school system. The below question was asked to Europe and in Africa. Okay, he has these primary exams in Britain. 1, what is coding? 2, how can Britain position itself and lead in the fourth industrial revolution? 3, define the role of robotics. 4, list characteristics of the British economy. 5, how can the British economy be transformed? In primary exams in Zambia, the question is, what is the name of the Queen of England's residence? 2, what is the Prince of Sussex? 3, what did David Livingstone meet at Ujiji? 4, name 2 children of the Queen of England. 5, in what year did David Livingstone discover the Victoria Falls? Okay, yeah, exactly what we have been talking about. Yes. Stephen Mwambo, writing from Boya, says, hey, Mr. Leo, I don't think our system of education needs more adjustment. Our problem in Cameroon is always in the area of application. We have good laws, but are not applied. It's same with our education. We need more labs and platforms to apply what we learn. Cameroonians are doing extremely well abroad, even with the education they obtained from here, but we still criticize. So I will only ask that education be left for educators. We have seen a lot of politics play in the education milieu. Good evening to you, Stephen. Extend our greetings to the family. Good evening, Mr. Leo. And kudos to you and the panel. Education is the foundation of our problem. First, we have a terrible educational foundation as our nursery and primary education is not prioritized. We most often try to professionalize adults with a broken nursery and primary education background. In countries that are serious about their educational system, you don't teach in nursery and primary school section without a specialist training and minimum first degree. This is Mickey Gilbert writing from the UK. I'll be happy to call in for the future. I love your program and thanks so much. Great Dr. Nick is a friend and brother. Okay, Mr. Mickey is writing from the UK, says he knows you. Yeah. Good evening, dear panelists. I am for Bukum from Ninku in Bafoot. One of the problems is that we have but a subjective system of education that is tailored by a colonial master without room for independent innovations. Please, can you stop calling? When you call, I can't read the messages, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I enjoy the program. How I wish this agriculture that has been preached several times be introduced into our curriculum and practically taught as early as possible. This is the only hope for a better Cameroon. Mr. Kum is writing from Mbuda. Good evening to you, namesake. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panelists of Great Minds with a very interesting topic, and great job to Dr. Nick. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back watching your interesting programs on my Media Prime. Aiden VF, watching from Halifax in Canada. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Kum and the panelists. Dr. Nick just said it all. A comprehensive college is what Cameroon needs. Out here in Canada, a college degree graduate is more than a master's degree graduate in Cameroon. So pathetic. Gerard is writing from Canada. Good evening to you, Gerard. Dr. Nick, we are moving out of time. Now, do we really need to redefine the system given that the needs for this nation 50, 40 years ago is quite different from what obtains.
Yes, we really have to redefine everything, and to really make it very dramatic. What we are going to do is we'll gather samples of the curriculum, okay, from wherever, put them together.
What should be done, or what you are going to do?
Well, it will be done, and we've set fire to them and burn them and say, look, we burn the boats. Then go to these other countries. How do you do it? Get their own curriculum and come and implement. Stop trying to put new wine in old wine skins. It will not work. So what we have now, just wipe it off the slate and then go over there. If you like, you perish. Go over there, get from Singapore, from South Korea, Finland, all those, and craft it and put it. Now, before I give you back the microphone, I know we are running from time. I just want to share this experience that I've had with some parents that have been bugging me. You know, we have a school here in Bunamusadi, and we are talking of first-year students. The other day, after the midday break, the teacher was teaching the students in class, and when I was passing by, I saw two girls playing with their phones outside. I mean, they had one phone and they were distracted. So I seized the phone, and then I insisted the other girl went and gave me her phone, and I talked to the students and tried to explain the bad things that these girls were doing. I mean, that it was not good for them to be distracted. But I asked them for the telephone numbers to talk to their parents. Eventually, the parents have been getting to me, and this happened about 3 weeks ago, and even till today, a parent calls me and is trying to put me to the test, finding out why I'm keeping the children's phone. And this is what I told them. I said, I'm not going to mess up with the other children because of yours. I will give back your fees and then give back the phone, and your child leaves as soon as that is done. So you choose to either have your child in school studying, or she takes her phone, takes her fees, goes back and stays with you and be playing with the phone. We need to make sure that discipline, self-discipline is in place. Otherwise, we are wasting our time. It's very, very important. This just goes to I just want to buttress what Mr. May has been saying here about character upbringing in the homes. And the parents are responsible for messing up children.
Okay, good evening, House. Please, Mr. Leo, your panelists are saying something, but let them note that up till a level, teachers' hands are tied, okay? All powers have been taken from them. Students see them very useless. They are good teachers. It is a call, not a job. Again, Sylvester is writing from Yaoundé. Yes, that is also an aspect to look out. The maker, you say, good evening, dear panelists. I'm really satisfied with the selection of the panelists on board. In a country where value is given to administrators instead of entrepreneurs and engineers, what do you expect? Most times, senior administrators are sent to different schools to go and showcase nothing. We need financial education rather than a certificate-oriented educational system. The maker, writing from Boya, thank you for writing. But are parents not also a great problem to what their children are supposed to get from
I think they are.
The schools, like he's saying?
Yes, I think they are, and my brother has been emphasizing on it since the beginning of the program. I think they are, and a lot of us feel that we've actually declined from our responsibility, like the parents. And I think that they are I'm very surprised to hear what Dr. Nick is saying, because I've noticed that most proprietors, like he is, they care much about their money. If you can pay their fees, they don't care much. For him to offer to give back that fees, he's trying to plant a seed of discipline. And in life, you can have a GPA of 4 on 4. You get into an office, you cannot live with people from different nationalities, you'll be thrown out of that job the next day. As he said, it's 25, 75, and 75 is your character. And it is that character that people like him are trying to build by offering to give that fees back. That discipline, you have to be disciplined. If you have to be in a place, you have to work according to the rules of the place. And this is another big problem that we have. So in my opinion, to fix this problem, the authorities that be must touch our curriculum. We copy from those areas that are working. It will not cost us anything. We bring it in. They will get the appropriate teachers. Let's get the teachers that are qualified. Get them in there. Let's maintain discipline, and then train these children from nursery school, and we'll get the results. This is my opinion. This is my last take on this. And it is very easy for us to copy these things from the countries that are working, because if for 50 years I mean, in Cameroon, you look, everything that a Cameroon engineer does almost does not work. So my opinion is that we keep this aside. Let's borrow what is working, come and implement it in Cameroon, and we get the appropriate teachers, get the appropriate environment, and teachers, qualified teachers, and well-paid teachers. Because that is what will make a constitute a good teacher. He has to be qualified, he has to be well-paid, that he can also earn a living.
Okay. Good evening, dear panelists. We are living in an educational system where making money is the concern of schools that are created today, most especially private and public, and not impacting knowledge with wisdom. When I look at the future of the students today, even those in the professional institutes and universities, I feel bad because the teachers we have today have been taught the theories they know and have never practicalized and will never teach practice to the students. Moreover, they have no labs. We should have 70% practical and 30% theoretical system of education to help build a country that we cherish. Thanks. Pascal is writing from where we don't know. Good evening to you, Pascal. Glad to also read from you. Good evening and greetings to you all. I am Luis from Douala. When they keep saying we have a good law but not implemented, it simply means they are not good laws. We have to end at this juncture. And Ndiwum, certainly you have one word for 1 minute.
Yes, I wanted to say that I insist that the powers that be should create a conducive atmosphere for those who are supposed to dispense the knowledge, and then if it is possible, if they can put that is laboratories in different schools and equip them, not what we saw in University of Ngwanyam when a minister of education lied some time ago that it was well equipped, and when your cameras went there, the rector was running because the school was in the bush. Because if you can still accept that we want to practicalize education and we don't give the means to the teachers and the students, it wouldn't work. And again, I wanted to think that the role of the guide-down counselors in our school should be taken more important at this time. Because there are students in the university now like this. If you ask them, you are graduating this year, what do you really think you are going to take after graduation? They wouldn't tell you. And I could not end the program without greeting my beautiful mother who is watching me right from Bamenda. Mama, good night.
Okay. Thank you for coming in. One last word.
Yeah, before we run out, I would really like to emphasize that we as parents in this country need to really take back the position of parents in the life of our children. Children have been left on their own to fend for education on their own, and that has actually kept them in a dilemma position. They don't know what they are going after. And then before, we will have to look at what the authorities have to do to implement a curriculum that is holistic in its approach in giving a hands-on deck training on the things we are supposed to undergo to actually change the education system in this country. And finally, like Isaac Newton said, I've been able to see far because I stood on the shoulders of giants. This said, we need to copy from where it is working because they have gone far ahead. We cannot start building from scratch as if we're still very much in the dark ages. We need to just start from where others have already set the pace, and then we move on from there.
Okay. I end also with this. I started with a greeting, and I'm also ending the program with another greeting to the Southwest Regional Delegate for Secondary Education, Dr. Hanambwa Etonde, who has been doing so well out there in the Southwest region, having led some schools and now leading the regional delegation of secondary education, as well as special greetings to all the teachers, to you Ndiwum and to you Dr. Nick, who is working in the domain, and everybody who is doing something to get our system of education better. I say special greetings to you. On Wednesday, we are taking the rendezvous. We're going to focus on agriculture. We are asking the question why we import so much when we can produce almost everything. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this program. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.